Shortly after Iran launched retaliatory strikes on a U.S. military base in Qatar, U.S. President Donald Trump declared that the time had come to end the fighting, especially after the conflict reached its peak when the U.S. intervened by striking Iranian nuclear sites. His announcement that Israel and Iran had agreed to a complete and total ceasefire was met with cautious applause from world leaders, but beneath the surface, mistrust runs deep. Both sides have already accused each other of violating the ceasefire, and the fate of the truce, which took effect earlier today, now hangs in the balance. Trump later voiced his disappointment over the renewed tensions between Israel and Iran, despite the ceasefire that was meant to hold. As the ceasefire takes effect, one question remains: is the 12-day war truly coming to an end, or could rising mistrust spark a new round of escalation? I'm Henny Siv, and let's go in depth. Welcome back. As the already shaky ceasefire came into force, U.S. President Donald Trump said he's extremely unhappy with what Israel and Iran are doing, according to the Washington Post. The ceasefire appeared to be in immediate jeopardy as both sides traded accusations of attacks shortly after acknowledging its start. The newspaper added. Trump, who brokered the ceasefire, told reporters while departing for the NATO summit in The Hague that both Israel and Iran had violated the agreement. He added that he wasn't sure whether these violations were intentional and specifically warned Israel to stop striking Iran. Earlier, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said he has ordered the country's military to respond forcefully to what he said was Iran's violation of a ceasefire with Israel. According to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, Israel destroyed a radar installation near Tehran in response to Iran violating the ceasefire, but refrained from further strikes after Netanyahu spoke with Trump. On the other hand, Iran denied launching missiles at Israel after the ceasefire was announced. At the same time, Iran also accused Israel of breaching the agreement. With the world watching closely to see if the ceasefire will hold, Trump took to Truth Social once again, insisting that the ceasefire between Israel and Iran remains in effect. Delving more into the unfolding developments between Israel and Iran, we're joined from Washington by Colonel Abbas Dahuka, the former senior military advisor at the U.S. Department of State on Middle Eastern Affairs, and from Cairo by Mr. Ahmad Sultan, the regional security and terrorism researcher. Gentlemen, welcome to In Depth. Colonel Dahouk, how do you view the recent accusations traded between Israel and Iran of both breaching the ceasefire agreement, and how could this further put the ceasefire at risk?
Well, good day to you and your guests, and thank you for having me on your show. I mean, it is a fragile ceasefire, and just like any other ceasefires, we'll have some ups and downs. But there's no doubt that it is, so far, it is a good development. It's a welcoming thing, thanks to the Trump administration's, President Trump's insistence on on some kind of ceasefire. As you mentioned in your earlier report, the president is not happy with the results so far. Both have violated the ceasefire, violated conditions. Conditions still unknown at this point. But the expectation from the United States that the president wanted the ceasefire, he wanted to go to The Hague with some good news about the region, some accomplishment. But it seems like nothing has ended yet. Remember, ceasefire depends also on political ends. I think while they agree on a ceasefire, but they still don't agree on politics between the United States and Israel, between Israel and Iran. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sultan, both Israel and Iran blame each other for violating the ceasefire. Why does mistrust continue to undermine the ceasefire despite agreeing to it? In other words, how long do you think it will last with this mistrust running deep?
Yes, thank you. And for your guest from Washington, in regards to your question, we are in front of contradictory goals. Israel have their own goals as well as Iran. Currently, this is a fragile truce, and it may not last unless there is efforts in the upcoming period to stabilize ceasefire. We are in a geopolitical complex political condition or situation. Israelis are very happy with their goals, with what they achieved from goals, and they consumed their goals, and they all want to destabilize the area. And if the US allow this complex situation needs different or very geopolitical solutions and coalitions, because they didn't defeated completely, and because Iran has still the ability to make or to achieve goals inside of in Israel. So this truce or this situation needs a coalition from all parties. Both of them have to stop at what they consumed and reached until now. Israelis are very willing to the truce. On the Iranian side, they still now, I do apologize, on the Israeli side, they are still consist in achieving some goals. And this is what the US administration see. This is what they demand an immediate ceasefire and not to involve in more anti-Iranian strikes. And of course, the path events will take in the next few days will determine the future.
Mm-hmm. Colonel Dahouk, before announcing the ceasefire, Trump thanked Iran for providing him with an early notice before striking the US military base in Qatar. Was that the reason why Trump decided at this point to end the 12-day conflict, or do you think there was another reason?
I don't think the notification has to do with the decision. Sometimes countries do something like this to avoid collateral damage, unnecessary loss of life, loss of civilian bystanders. But I think the Iranian response was not proportional in comparison to what the U.S. did. Remember, the U.S. went into Iran and destroyed their nuclear program. This is perhaps a 2-decade program that the Iranian regime has been working on it. This is their pride and joy that cost billions of dollars. And the retaliation for that was launching, I think, 13 missiles to a neighboring country that all that were intercepted. I think President Trump realized that this is a safe face measure, and read between the lines that the Iranian regime is willing to perhaps at least agree for some kind of ceasefire. Mm-hmm. the war is all about action, then reaction to it, and then counteraction. So the United States didn't feel the need to counteraction what the Iranians did, and the president tried to force this ceasefire conditions. And it seems like both accepted it initially, but there's a way to go to enforce it and to make it stick.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sultan, following the strikes, Tehran declared that Iran will not leave any attack on its sovereignty unanswered. What measures is Iran prepared to take, especially after Israel destroyed a radar installation near Tehran? How literal and serious should we take these statements?
On the Iranian side wants to preserve their sovereignty during this war, especially they got to the first strike, which was strong actually. So this is currently they are trying to preserve their sovereignty, that they are not defeated, and they had retaliated successfully. This is why they want to convince Iranian people that the achieved accomplishments are although or despite the strikes, this is to preserve the narrative, because the nation of the war is unprecedented, and it has a systematic approach. And this untraditional war, they have to prepare the narrative and the environment to win. So the Iranian side wants to say that they are strong, are not defeated, and ready to more retaliatory responses in case of escalation. So however, there is a dysfunction or between the warming alerts and launching the rockets, which made the Iranian space prepared to launch a raid in the Israeli airspace in the middle of the western Israel. So Iranian have only limited resources, and of course the threat to launch ballistic missiles to Israel, which is a balance between the two powers in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Colonel Dahouk, there are no winners in war or conflict, but who do you think really ticked all the boxes or reached their own goals or achieved their targets?
In wars, there's no winners. All are losers somehow. And the unfortunate thing is the loss of innocent lives and unnecessary destruction. But the United States does declare some victory. The Trump administration already saying that he's the president that was able to destroy or maybe severely damage the nuclear program for Iran. As you know, almost all since Reagan, all presidents look at the Iranian nuclear program as a threat, and nobody did attack him militarily. And so that's something President Trump will take that as a victory. And the same thing also for Israel, especially Netanyahu. He's for decades set on the regime change, or at least destroy the nuclear program. So between Netanyahu and Trump, both, I think they feel like they accomplished something historic, and we'll take that as a success.
Yes.
For Iran, obviously lost a lot. They lost all their proxies. They've been still under severe sanctions. They lost control of their territorial integrity, their airspace integrity, and they lost most of the senior leaders and scientists and on the nuclear program. So I think they lost a lot.
Do you think that Iran would retaliate for the striking the radar installation?
I don't think so. I think the radar installation is not as big of a loss as the loss of life already from their leaders and also the nuclear program. But I think the Iranian regime will retaliate by surviving. As long as they survive, I think they will use their strategic patience and try to recover from it. So survival is number one goal for them.
Yes. Mr. Sultan, how does Iran view the U.S. involvement in brokering the ceasefire, given its ongoing tensions with the U.S.?
Of course, from this side, Iran sees the U.S. as an enemy and an ally involving in the strikes they got from Israel, and which made the U.S. is not a meddler or broker for Iran, but they had to deal with it because they want, as your guest mentioned, they want to stay and to preserve their sovereignty. So Iran and the U.S. is the only that can make pressure on the Israeli side to stop their strikes. And to the last response of what of Tel Aviv strikes, Trump asked clearly Netanyahu to stop their strikes. So this is why they shrank to the goals, and the Israeli plans backed on without launching the rest of the scheduled do strikes. So Iran considers the U.S. as an ally. They do not trust U.S. Completely, but they they deal with it in order to minimize the losses, and this is to prepare for the next rounds. So there's still some rounds left, and that both parties will continue playing, and all of them want to eliminate and destroy the other. So we will witness upcoming clashes, of course.
Colonel Dahouk, with Trump being extremely unhappy, especially towards Israel, how does this stance translate into U.S. policy towards Israel moving forward, or should we take this statement with a pinch of salt?
No, I mean, the President Trump is very committed to the idea of peace through strength. He is committed to bring peace to the Middle East. He wants to be the peace president. He wants to be the only president that somewhat normalized the relationship between Arab countries, Israel and Turkey and Iran, as some kind of normal relationship, not based on security or common security, based on economics and trade. So he is does not he looks that those wars are not productive, will not get anywhere, and is also not helping his policy in the Middle East. So he will continue to put pressure equally on Iran and on Israel. But we have to remember that Israel is also a sovereign country, very powerful country in the region. They might listen to the president and heed his advice, but at the end of the day, also Israel is going to do what's best for Israel, and the same thing Iran is going to do what's best for Iran. And the hope is that what's best somewhat intersect between all three: United States, Israel, and Iran. But we should also wait and see how this ceasefire materializes.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sultan, now Egypt has expressed its solidarity with Qatar, and we are witnessing the ceasefire efforts and negotiations between Israel and Iran. Do you think there is a role to be played by international parties other than the U.S., Israel, and Iran?
In regards to Egypt, its condemnation for Iranian strikes that targeted Udeid U.S. base is a commitment of Egypt to the Arab security stability. Egypt refuses the aggression on any Arab country, which is very stable stance in regards to Egypt, Egypt is still maintaining communication channels with all parties in the region, and including Iranians and Israelis, and it's already involved in negotiations in regards to hostages in Gaza Strip between Hamas and Israel. And I think it can play an additional role in brokering between Israelis and Iranians. But it depends on the willingness of each party, and Israel and Iran, and Egypt is willing to play the broker role. It has a vision for Middle East to de-escalation, so it does its best with diplomatic efforts and others to de-escalate the tension and contain the crisis fired in the area, because it reflects on all countries, not only in Iran and Israel. The whole area will be impacted, and the whole world as well.
Colonel Dahouk, what sort of guarantees would be in place to guarantee a ceasefire holding between Iran and Israel, and who would actually take up the role of the guarantor? Are we talking about political guarantees, military guarantees, economic ones even?
Well, the guarantor is the United States government. I mean, the U.S. administration that has the political power, has the military power, and has also the economic power. They will oversee this ceasefire. They have the tools, the pressure tools to put on both parties. But again, both Iran and Israel, they've been at war for a long time. And this quick ceasefire that's going to end the whole thing, end this decades of hostilities, it's not realistic. Trump wanted the victory of 12-day war, but the issues still on the table. And the idea is to start the political process, diplomatic dialogue between all three of them. So it's still an open-ended. It seems Trump willing to put pressure, information pressure, all these elements of power. But will they heed to the pressure? That's the end of the game. So that's not guaranteed. You might have guarantees from or pressures from the United States, but you want the warring parties to heed those pressures. Mm-hmm. So at this point, again, it's just I can't predict the future.
Mr. Sultan, Israel said it refrained from launching further strikes following Trump's conversation with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you think Israel will follow on that, and would we consider the 12-day war officially over?
The war is not ended. It may round has ended, but the war in total is not ended. Now we are in front of a possible escalation if this violation has been, as this truce was violated, which was fragile, the launching of strikes is possible. In order to avoid that, we have to intensify the negotiations in order to avoid it. Israel said it's ended its strikes according to a direct request from the president, U.S. President to Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump is playing a big role in stopping Netanyahu, but for how long can Trump continue in putting an end to Netanyahu's wildness? Of course, this may ignite the clashes one more time, and hindering this requires more pressure from the U.S. on both parties and more brokery and diplomatic negotiations in order to establish a diplomatic path to de-escalate the tension. And of course, Israel realizes their big role and big power to impose these threats. They thought it was existential only, and the next will shows Israel's commitment to this truce even more than Iran's.
From Cairo, that was Mr. Ahmad Sultan, the regional security and terrorism researcher. And from Washington, that was Colonel Abbas Tahouk, the former senior military advisor at the U.S. Department of State on Middle East Affairs. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your insights. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode of In Depth. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.